Considering how high the stakes are, how many people are typically involved, and how high profile the event itself is, it's no surprise that there have been one or two Royal Rumble related controversies over the years. These can either be kayfabe, like a dodgy winner, or real, like a backstage bust-up, or unscripted in-ring drubbing. We may watch the Rumble for the surprise entrance and shock eliminations, but there is often much more going on beneath the surface. I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 most shocking WWE Royal Rumble controversies. Join us. Number 10, hazing the new guy. Maven showed in the 2002 Rumble what can happen when a tough enough winner upsets the apple cart, after he was left beaten and bloodied following his awesome elimination of The Undertaker. 3 years later, another tough enough winner incurred the wrath of a locker room enforcer, though the beating Daniel Puder received from Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero and Hardcore Holly was mostly unscripted. Puder, who had risen to fame after almost breaking Kurt Angle's arm in an impromptu shoot fight on SmackDown not too long before this, had supposedly annoyed Holly and some other members of the locker room with his arrogant attitude. Fed to the wolves, the former MMA fighter was at the mercy of 3 surly veterans who didn't take too kindly to rookies, and left the ring, first man eliminated in the match, with a chest that closely resembled hamburger meat. You know what they say, revenge is a dish best served live on a worldwide pay-per-view. Obviously, in today's world, with WWE being so corporate and apparently committed to spreading an anti-bullying message, this type of thing don't fly. Number 9, Rock touches first. There have been some contentious eliminations and disputed match finishes during the Royal Rumble's long and illustrious history. Think about Bret Hart and Lex Luger hitting the floor simultaneously in 1994, Shawn Michaels exploiting the both feet must touch rule the year after, or Steve Austin sneaking back in to win illegally in 1997. The finish of the 2000 Rumble wasn't supposed to be such a lightning rod, but it became that after the fact. In it, Big Show attempted to dump The Rock over the top, only for the Brahma Bull to hold on and use the big nasty bastard's momentum against him, sending him over instead. Replays showed, however, that The Rock's feet had actually touched the floor first, something that was acknowledged the next night on Raw. By rights, Big Paul should have booked his place in the main event of WrestleMania on the night. WWE tried to remedy the situation by booking Show against Rock at the next pay-per-view, No Way Out, with Rock's Mania main event on the line. Number 8, no bro in Brock. The 2020 Royal Rumble match was a great piece of business for Brock Lesnar. Though the reigning WWE champion didn't go the distance as promised, he still entered at number 1, eliminated 13 people over the course of 26 electrifying minutes, and set up a WrestleMania date with Drew McIntyre in the most effective way possible. The Beast incarnate must have felt pretty good afterwards, but earlier in the night he had to set someone straight backstage. According to Matt Riddle, who made his main roster in-ring debut in the Rumble, Brock confronted him and told the King of Bros in no uncertain terms that a match between the two of them would never, ever happen. It was described as an intense encounter by those who witnessed it. To be fair, the former UFC heavyweight champion had a right to be annoyed, since Riddle, himself a former UFC star, had been lobbying for the match without Lesnar's blessing, and had even intimated that he would likely be the one to eventually retire the next big thing. I think that I, a close personal friend of Brock's, has more chance than you, bro. Number 7, Hogan the heel. The 1992 Royal Rumble match is considered to this day to be one of the best, if not the best, ever. Featuring an enviable amount of star power, the continuation and starting of new feuds, and a tour de force performance from eventual winner Ric Flair, there was something for everyone to enjoy in this one, which was the first time a Rumble was contested over the WWE title. Well, everyone but that orange egomaniac Hulk Hogan, that is. The Hulkster, who had won back-to-back Rumbles in 1990 and 91, couldn't let the Nature Boy have his moment without sticking his nose in things and making it all about him. After being totally, fairly, legally eliminated by Sid Justice, Hogan refused to accept that he was out of the match and held onto the arm of the master and ruler of the world. This distraction allowed Slick Rick to sneak up behind him and dump him over for the win. It was pathetic behaviour from Hogan, completely unnecessary and petulant stuff, and added an unneeded bit of controversy to Flair's incredible achievements. Number 6. Game time. You may have heard this before, but Triple H wasn't exactly the most popular WWE star with either fans or his co-workers in the early 2000s. Accused of using his backstage pull and close relationship with the McMahons to stay on top while simultaneously holding others back, this period is commonly referred to as the game's reign of terror. Those working the Royal Rumble 2004 undercard certainly weren't happy with Hunter's perceived preferential treatment. The 4 bouts that went on before Tripp's World Heavyweight title last man standing match with Shawn Michaels lasted less time combined than the Cerebral Assassin's defense. That included a World Tag Team title table match, a Cruiserweight title match, a grudge match between Los Guerreros, and SmackDown's WWE title match. According to Bob Holly, his year-in-the-making match with Brock Lesnar was cut in half as he was waiting to make his entrance in the gorilla position, with the 7 minutes that were shaved off going directly to the game and HBK. What makes this hoarding of time even more egregious is that, as good as the World Heavyweight title bout was, it went to a draw. It went to a draw, eliciting groans from the audience. Number 5. An unwelcome return. Under different circumstances, the January 2014 in-ring return of Batista would have been cause for celebration. The Animal had left WWE in the spring of 2010 and was coming back as a would-be movie star, his role as Drax the Destroyer in the forthcoming release of Guardians of the Galaxy certain to launch him into the stratosphere. Entering the Royal Rumble at number 28 and eliminating 4 people en route to winning the thing, Big Dave's big moment was as well received as a big, stiff kick in the gonads. Fans in Pittsburgh that night wanted burgeoning cult hero Daniel Bryan to enter and win the Rumble, but D-Bry wasn't even booked in the match. He'd lost to Bray Wyatt in the show's opener. Poor Rey Mysterio, entering at number 30, bore the brunt of their wrath when they realised that their favourite wasn't going to be involved, before they completely rained on Batista's parade. The WWE Universe simply wouldn't accept a Batista vs Randy Orton WrestleMania main event either, but rather persisted with their calls for Bryan's inclusion and ultimately changed the course of the event. Number 4. The genetic quad tearer. Of course, Batista knew what it was like to win the Royal Rumble, having won his first 9 years prior. That big victory came just as the Animal was starting to really get over, setting him up for a WrestleMania showdown with Evolution leader Triple H and his first World Heavyweight title win. Truth be told, Big Dave was lucky that that one actually happened, since he and John Cena managed to bungle things so massively that an irate Vince McMahon departed the gorilla position so that he could furiously bark orders in person. Batista and Cena had taken an unplanned tumble over the top rope as Batista went to hit the Batista bomb, though they miraculously managed to hit at the exact same time. The referees stalled for time before the genetic jackhammer finally emerged, which is when the hilarity properly ensued. As he slid into the ring, old Vince bashed his leg on the edge of it and tore his quad. This provided us with the bizarre image of the apoplectic chairman directing traffic while sat on his ass. Incredibly, Vince managed to tear the other quad backstage after, because he tried to walk independently after refusing assistance. Obviously. Number 3. When it rains, it pours. They say those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. They also say, screw you and your history, pal. We're the market leaders in sports entertainment and we can do what we like, so shut up. Well, WWE say that anyway, and they proved how committed they are to following through with the plan, TM, despite evidence suggesting that it's not a good idea at the 2015 Royal Rumble. A year after misreading the room and booking Hollywood Batista to win the Rumble, WWE once again rejected fans' calls to have Daniel Bryan emerge victorious and instead had Roman Reigns triumph on the night. The Philadelphia faithful booed the big dog out of the building and launched loud chants of BS and CM Punk, while #CancelWWE Network trended worldwide in the event's aftermath. Even a face-saving run-in and post-win endorsement from The Rock couldn't salvage things, as fans even heckled the Great One, who looked as miffed as anyone at the situation unfolding. It was a bad night at the office for WWE, and especially Reigns, whose march to main event superstardom was off to the rockiest of starts. No pun intended. Number 2, not like most girls. WWE may have given their female performers their own Rumble, but that didn't stop one member of the fairer sex from showing up in the men's version. Following in the footsteps of Chyna, Beth Phoenix, and Karma, Nia Jax entered the 2019 Men's Rumble, beating up number 30 entrant R-Truth as he made his entrance. The Irresistible Force cleaned house and eliminated an unsure Ali before eating a Dolph Ziggler superkick, a 619, and an RKO prior to being eliminated by Rey Mysterio. While a woman competing in the Men's Rumble wasn't exactly taboo-breaking, the way in which she was ganged up on had some questioning whether WWE should be promoting intergender violence, something they had been cautious to avoid since going PG more than a decade prior. Evidently, at least one of WWE's sponsors wasn't keen on the idea, since their complaints helped nix a planned Jax vs Ambrose feud and a match that began on the post-Rumble episode of Raw. Now that Jax no longer works for WWE and the Lunatic Fringe is in AEW, it can finally happen! Book it, TK. Number 1, Beyond the Pale. While the finish of The Rock and Mick Foley's WWE title I Quit match at the '99 Royal Rumble was designed to create controversy, it wasn't so much the actual finish itself, but rather how they got there that had people talking afterwards. In the run-up to the ending, which saw an audio recording of Foley saying the words I quit play over the arena's PA system, in lieu of him actually uttering the words himself, the hardcore legend took a truly sickening beating at the hands of the People's Champion. Foley took 10 brutal, unprotected chair shots to the head while his hands were handcuffed behind him. It was an incredible spectacle, done by Foley out of selflessness and in an attempt to put on a great match and elevate The Rock ahead of his feud with Steve Austin. But it was too much. As later seen in the documentary Beyond the Mat, Foley's wife and children were sat at ringside and had a front row view for the barbaric beatdown. It was difficult to watch then, but given what we know today about concussions, CTE and the like, it's even more so now.